Pokemon Omicron. I was looking for a new fan game to play for quite a while now, and I came across Pokemon Zeta and Omicron. Apparently, they have the same developers of Pokemon Insurgents, and I really loved Pokemon Insurgents, so I thought, why not give this game a go? I chose Pokemon Omicron and set out on my journey. We name ourselves Random as we immediately start our story in this random cave. Our mom comes over to us and tells us that our hometown is being attacked by a terrorist organization called Team Olympus. Immediately, this tone of the story is then set. She then goes ahead and joins the resistance to resist the attacks as we are ushered by the Pokemon professor to choose our first Pokemon. Unlike any other Pokemon game, these Pokemon games don't have traditional starter Pokemon. Instead, our options are Bellsprout, Magby, and Horsea. I chose Magby as my first Pokemon and named it Firearm because it has a firearm. I then left the cave and headed to Zoroark Town and then headed to the Pokemon Professor's lab. He tells us that he has someone starting an internship for him, so we have to go ahead and fetch him. Before fetching him, we talk to one of the professor's assistants. He gives us a free Horsea, which I'm really excited about. I named the Horsea Poseidon after Poseidon and the eventual dragon type it gains. I then head to the Pokemon school where I find the guy. His name is Jake and his whole character is about swag. So the whole purpose of his character is for us to hate him. Jake picks Horsea as the starter Pokemon and immediately runs off. Before we can run off, Professor Oak stops us and gives us a Pokédex signifying the start of our journey. We traverse through Naragex Forest and finally arrive at Superior City. We talk to this guy standing outside of this building and he tells us to go find the legend researcher and tell him that the goods have arrived. We don't know the nature of these goods, but we trust him anyway and head to Wonder Cave to find him. We arrive at the center of the cave and we meet the legend researcher and the gym leader. For whatever reason, we are told to put our hands on this rock and an unknown appears. We defeat the unknown with the combined efforts of Magby and Horsea, and then the legend researcher tells us to go to Fianga City because his friend Wilson has a laboratory there. We are also told to battle the gym by the gym leader. We decide to take on the first gym leader Devon first as he leads with his Machop. I go for a couple of water guns and after he heals with 2 potions I eventually take it out. My Horsea also takes down the Riolu with a couple of water guns as he sends out his last Pokemon Meditite. I do a bit of damage but Confusion ultimately takes us out as I switch into Magby to finish off the job. With that we took down the Meditite and took down the first gym. The Discipline Badge has now been acquired. While making our way to the next town, we stumble across Cyrus. He tells us that we remind him of some trainer that he met in the past, most probably Diamond or Lucas, whatever you want to call him. He also says he's here because a lot of legendary Pokemon are drawn to this region. He then leaves, and while making our way to the next town, our Magby evolves into a Magmar and our Horsea evolves into a Seadra. We then have a rival fight outside of the gates of the next town as we battle our rival. He leads with Charmander and I take it down with Seadra after Magmar goes down. As you can see, both my Pokemon are very low HP going through the route, so I heal up my Seadra and then take down his very own Horsea with a couple of water guns. After that, we make our way into the next town. The guy is really pissed that he lost. Before we do anything in Onega Town, we backtrack to Naragex Forest where we teach our Magmar Headbutt. We then go to one of the Headbutt trees and headbutt it and get a Ferroseed as an encounter. I catch it, name it Castador and add it to the team. Next up, I decide to take on the gym in Onega Town. The gym leader is a grass type gym leader. He leads with his Chikorita while I switch into my Magmar because I'm trying to switch train my Ferroseed. Take down the Chikorita, switch back into my Ferroseed. If you couldn't tell, I'm playing on set style by the way. I then take out the Leafeon with a couple of fire spins. I add a potion to my Magmar to keep it healthy. I then switch out into my Ferroseed again so I can get some experience and one-shot the Nuzleaf with a single fire spin. I then get my second gym badge and decide it was time to do some Team Olympus conquering, Team Olympus being the evil team of this region. We defeat all the grunts and decide to take on one of the admins, Athena. She leads with her Hoot Hoot while I lead with my Ferroseed. After a couple of Metal Claws, the Hoot Hoot goes down after the third one. She then switches into a Riolu and I then switch into my Seadra. I switch into my Seadra and 2 Bubble Beams forces the Riolu to go down. Her last Pokemon is indeed a Mienfoo or Mienfoo, whatever you want to call it. The Mienfoo then takes down my Seadra and I switch into my Ferroseed to get some experience for it, and then I switch into my Magmar, go for 2 Embers, taking down the Mienfoo and defeating the admin of Team Olympus, or the admin I think anyway. They then bring us outside of the museum because they have called a time caller, and then resurrect Shaman from seemingly nothing and Master Ball and escape. We meet N in this cave, N from Pokemon Black 2 and White 2, or Black and White, and he tells us that he wants to stop Team Olympus, which we agree with. And then after making it out of the cave, we make our way to Fiago City. We meet up with our mom, Professor Oak, Cyrus, and N as they threaten Team Olympus that they can't do what they want with the Pokéhedron Collider without the Time Caller. Unknowing to them, Team Olympus already acquired the Time Caller and threatened them back. To learn more about the Time Caller, Professor Oak sends us to the Legend Researcher to do some research. The Legend Researcher relays some information, and we relay that to Professor Oak himself. Unknowing to him, Niasa Town explodes out of nowhere and Professor Oak is shocked. We head to Niasa Town as we fight Apollo, which is one of the Team Olympus admins. We initiate the battle with Apollo. I lead with my Seadra, he leads with his Vulpix. I go for a Bubble Beam, leaving it on red HP. It quick attacks me, but I finish it off with Bubble Beam. Out comes the Ponyta, and it confuses me via Swagger. I hit Trick Confusion and hit the Bubble Beam. I decide to switch out to get rid of Confusion, so I switch into my Ferrothorn to take an attack. Iron Barbs almost takes it out. It takes itself out via Iron Barbs, and then I switch back into my Seadra for his last Pokemon, Solrock. I go for a Bubble Beam, doing just about over half damage. Another Bubble Beam finishes off the Solrock. With that, we defeat Apollo. He uses the Time Caller to resurrect his Pokemon, but the Dragon Elite Four member arrives and saves us from the situation. He tells us to go get our 3rd gym badge at Agassiz City, so we head there. While heading to Agassiz City, we have a rival fight against Jake. Upon winning, he gives us the Cut HM. There's a tower at Agassiz City, so we decide to enter it, where we find Team Olympus threatening this guard to get to the top. The guard tries to stop him, and a gym leader tries to threaten Team Olympus himself, and we go through some conspiracy. Gym leader is apparently an alleged murderer getting 2 years in prison, but we don't know the full story yet, so we just have to get our 3rd gym badge and get out of the way essentially. I decide to take on the gym after a bunch of training. I lead with my Ferrothorn and take down the Rhyhorn after a couple of Gyro Balls and Metal Claws. The Rhyhorn goes down and he switches into his Larvitar. Larvitar is way easier to handle because my Metal Claw does more damage because it's super effective. Out comes Graveler. Switch into my Seadra and go for a Bubble Beam, taking it out. It lives on Sturdia, however, and switches into Onix, which is a very odd decision. But thankfully, we finish off the battle with the 3rd gym badge acquired. Before we take on the 4th gym at Fiago City, we decide to add another team member in Esper. We catch it and name it Rizzler. The 4th gym leader is a robot from the Ore region apparently, PK096. He leads with his Kling and I lead with my Esper. Switch into my Magmar because I want to switch train my Esper, go for the Fire Punch and then take it out. I switch back into my Esper to do some more switch training, and I switch back into my Magmar to do Fire Punch damage. It is a 2-hit KO and Bronzor then goes down. Up next is this Matang. Matang is a pretty difficult Pokemon. I decide to risk it and switch into my Esper, but he only goes for agility. I decide to switch back into my Magmar, go for a Fire Punch, doing a lot of damage. He heals up, but I take it down eventually. His next Pokemon is a Honedge. I finish it up with a Fire Punch. Next Pokemon is a Magneton. Another Fire Punch will take down the Magneton, and with that we get our 4th gym badge. Before progressing, we decide to train our Esper a little bit and catch it up to the team, and as a result it evolved into a Meowstic. We make our way to Turkana town. Since there's nothing to do there, we keep on progressing. Before we reach the next town, our Magmar evolves into a Magmortar. After that, we make our way to Kivu town, which is the next gym city town. Before taking on the gym, we were able to evolve our Seadra into a Kingdra. After that, we decided to take on the gym leader. He leads with his Haunter while I lead with my Meowstic. I set up a Calm Mind and went for a Psyshock, taking down the Haunter. Out comes Drifblim. I went for a Shadow Ball and took it out after a couple of hits after he healed up. Shedinja also gets knocked out in the process. Banette comes out and takes down my Meowstic. I switch into my Kingdra to go for a Hydro Pump. I hit my Hydro Pump and finally take down the Banette. Last Pokemon is the Gengar. It takes down my Kingdra and I sent out my Pharaoh Seed for some reason because I wanted to get XP, but unfortunately it died, so I had to use my Magmortar. After a Fire Punch, it did 50% damage and another one took it out, and with that we defeated the 5th gym leader. Our next battle is a friendly battle with the Professor's assistant. Upon winning, he gives us the HM for Surf. We teach Surf to our Kingdra and Surf across the sea to get to Ladoga Town. We also find that Team Olympus are there at Ladoga Town, and they decided to summon a god called Devavus. To beat Team Olympus, we team up with an Elite Four member that showed up, and we decided to take them down in a double battle. My Pharaoh Seed went down, so I have to switch into my Kingdra to take down the Vulpix. Stanler almost goes down as Ponyta comes out. A Surf takes down the Ponyta and Stanler. Up next is a Solrock and Lunatone. Surf takes down the Solrock while Lunatone also goes down. Gallade is our last Pokemon and Surf takes it out, and with that we defeated both the admins of Team Olympus, Apollo and Artemis. After beating them, we were able to set Devavus free, and also they leave and flee the town. The Elite Four member also leaves. After that, we decide it's finally time to strengthen our Pharaoh Seed and finally evolve it into a Ferrothorn. We found the TM for Swagger, and why this is important is because our rival is looking for it because he's the leader of Team YOLO Swag and Swagger really suits him. He leads with a Klefki in battle. I switch into my Magmortar, go for a Fire Punch and take it out. Out comes the Lyron. I take it down with 2 Fire Punches. Up next is this Kingdra. I decide to go for headbutt damage and take it down. My Magmortar goes down. My Ferrothorn comes in to finish in the job. Charmeleon is sent out next. Somehow, Charmeleon is at red health facing a Ferrothorn, which shouldn't be the case. Kingdra comes in to finish up the job. With that, our rival fight is defeated. We make our way to the next town, which is Treasure Town, and before we even try to take on the gym, we decide to add another team member, which is Mandibuzz. I caught it and named it Valorant, and with that, it was time to enter the gym and face the gym leader. He leads with a Parasect while I lead with my Mandibuzz. I go for a couple of plucks, taking down the Parasect. After that, his next Pokemon is an Escavalier. Switch into my Magmortar for a Fire Punch, taking it down. Out comes a Mega Scissor, which I take down with a Fire Punch because of the 4x super effectiveness. I switch into my Mandibuzz for the XP, and then switch into my Kingdra for a Hydro Pump, taking it down. Out comes Shedinja. I switch into my Magmortar and go for a Fire Punch, taking it down. Last Pokemon is a Ninjask, which also goes down thanks to a Fire Punch. Now we have to deal with more Team Olympus shenanigans. We overhear on one of their conversations, in case Zeus gets overpowered, Zeus being the Team Olympus leaders, the admins are discussing how to deal with him if he becomes uncontrollable. The admin does indeed notice us and decides to chloroform us, and we end up trapped in a Team Olympus base. The gym leader Greyhead, which is the 5th gym leader, decides to save us from using his Gengar, and we escape and decide to take on the Team Olympus base. As we make our way to the Team Olympus base, we make our way to the top where we find the admin discussing with the grunts a way to stop the leader in case he goes out of control. They devise a plan to fuse Shedinja and Sableye for the Wonder Guard ability to be passed on to Sableye. Before they move on, they mention the Elite Four being brought up. The Elite Four shows up. We also show up. We beat the admin in battle and then escape. We then have to trek through Mount Press to make it to the top so that we can have a last stand against Team Olympus. We face off against the 2 admins once again with our rival. Easily dispatching them, we decide it's finally time to take on their leader. The leader Zeus leads with a Shedinja while I lead with my Kingdra. I set up a Dragon Dance and go for another Dragon Dance to get me attack up. Go for Outrage, taking down the Gengar. I also take down the Electros with another hit. I go for Outrage again on the Metagross, doing a lot of damage, but my Kingdra just go down. Switch into my Magmortar and go for a Fire Punch, almost taking down the Metagross. Second one does complete the KO. Shaman comes out and takes down my Magmortar. I decide I need to switch into my Mandibuzz and go for an Air Slash. I do a lot of Air Slash damage, but eventually my Mandibuzz has to go down. Then switch into my Ferrothorn and then go for Rollout. I stack up Rollout a lot so that my Rollout becomes very powerful and take down the Ninjask as well. Last Pokemon is a Frostlass. I'm able to live the hit and Rollout finishes the job, which means we have defeated the leader Zeus. We then awaken Victini, and since Zeus doesn't want to interfere with the laws of the world. He decides to let us catch it. We caught it with the Master Ball, which we found at the Team Olympus base. He seems incredibly angry and decides to whip out a pistol to threaten our life. However, a vision of Arceus shows up in presence of us. He reveals that Zeus is actually gold from the Johto games, highlighting his achievements against Suicune, Usain, and the Elite Four, as well as his triumphs against Red. It was actually an Elite Four member to scare off Zeus, which was pretty cool because I thought it was actually Arceus himself, but it's actually an Elite Four member with an Zoroark. We decide to meet up with Cyrus, Professor Oak, our mom, and Zeus, and tell them of the situation. They decide to let us complete our gym badge challenge and let us get 8 badges to face the champion. I made my way to the 7th gym city, Blackfist City, and I decided I needed my last team member. I went to Mount Press and went ahead to catch a Golett and named it Berserker. I then trained it up to evolve into a Golurk. It was time to battle the 7th gym leader Dimitri. This battle is a double battle. He leads with his Metagross and Claydol, while I lead with my Golurk and Magmortar. I go for a Fire Blast on the Metagross, taking it out, as my Golurk goes for a Zombie Strike, which is a physical ghost type move in this game to take down the Claydol. Out comes Reuniclus and the Gothitelle. I decide to double team on the Reuniclus, Fire Blast doing less than half, and Zombie Strike taking it out. Out comes the Alakazam. The Alakazam will finish off my Golurk as Gothitelle withdraws for a Sigilyph. I then burn the Sigilyph with my Fire Blast and then bring out my Ferrothorn after Golurk goes down. I then go for a Pin Missile on the Alakazam. I go for the Fire Punch on the Sigilyph and burn it once again. I go for Pin Missile on the Alakazam once again. Mega Alakazam then goes down as he switches into his last Pokemon, Gothitelle. I go for a Fire Punch and Rollout combo on the Sigilyph, almost taking it out. Next up, the Sigilyph does go down, and the Gothitelle will go down to a couple of Fire Punches and Rollout damage. With that, we have our 7th gym badge, and yeah, let's go and get the last gym badge. We head to the last gym city, Caspian City, and we level up our Pokemon so we can comfortably beat the gym. The gym itself is a double battle with our rival. Our rival only uses 3 Pokemon, which is a bit of a bummer, and the battle is in constant sunlight unless we change it, of course. The Scrafty that he sends out immediately goes down, which is pretty bad, but I bring out my Golurk and take down both the Camerupt and the Houndoom with an Earthquake. The Aggron surprisingly lives on with 1 HP. I believe it has 30, I'm not really sure. Emboar and Chandelure comes out. I go for a Earthquake again. They go and double team on Jake's Pokemon, which is pretty amusing. I take down both the Emboar and the Chandelure with 1 hit. Jirachi also goes down thanks to the Earthquake, so it's essentially a 1v2 from now on, though if we win, Jake essentially gets a free gym badge. Out comes the Charizard Volcarona. Charizard Mega Evolves into Mega Charizard Y. It goes for the Solar Beam, taking down my Golurk. I then switch into my Meowstic to set up Rain Dance, and then Fiery Dance literally does no damage whatsoever. I go for a Psychic so I can do some like big damage. I get a critical hit, and I have now to switch into my Poseidon or Kingdra as you would call it, and go for a Surf. Charizard then immediately goes down. Volcarona will also go down in 1 hit, and with that we got our 8th gym badge. Simple as that, easy battle. Acquiring the Dive Hatchet, we make our way to Huron Town. We then make to Yangtze Town to check off some locations on the map and then head to Victory Road. At the end of Victory Road, like every other Pokemon game, we have a final rival fight, but this time he's a douchebag. We have to do 2 mandatory trainer fights before him, and then we are not allowed to heal in between. So after beating 2 of the mandatory trainers, I was exhausted of Pokemon, and eventually I had to resort to using potions to defeat my rival, and I eventually defeated him in the end. We make our way to the Pokemon League, and this is my team to taking on the Pokemon League. The first Elite Four member is a Dark type. He leads with his Zoroark with the Illusion. I lead with my Ferrothorn and go for Pin Missile, taking down the Zoroark. Out comes the Honchkrow. I deal some damage with Rollout, but then eventually my Ferrothorn goes down and Magmortar comes in to finish the job. Tyranitar comes in. I decide to do as much damage as I possibly can with Magmortar and switch into my Kingdra. Set up 2 Dragon Dances and go for a Waterfall, taking it out. I go for an Outrage, taking down the Hydreigon and the Absol as well. Misdreavus comes out and it falls to a single Outrage. Up next is the Electric type Elite Four member. Now I lead with my Ferrothorn once again and go for a Power Whip on the Lantern. He has a Ampharos which he Mega Evolves. I go for Pin Missile, taking it down. Out comes Galvantula. I finish it off with Rollout. I also almost finish out the Electros and do finish off the Electros and Electivire with Rollout. Last Pokemon is a Magnezone. I do as much damage as I can. Switch into my Magmortar and finish the job. Next up is Morgan, the Water type Elite Four member. I lead with my Ferrothorn and take down the Swanna after a couple of rollouts. I also take down the Walrein after a rollout. Out comes the Whiscash and I do a lot of damage with rollout. Decide to heal my Ferrothorn and then go for a Power Whip, taking down the Whiscash. Out next is the Crawdaunt. It goes for Super Power, taking my Ferrothorn down. As I switch into my Mandibuzz, I set up Nasty Plot and go for a couple of Air Slashes, taking down both the Crawdaunt and the Milotic. The Jellicent also suffers the same fate. The last Elite Four member is Wilson, the scientist guy. Decide to lead with my Kingdra, set up by Dragon Dance and go for Outrage, taking down that weird looking Mega Sparks as well. Altaria also gets taken down with Outrage, so does the Salamence. Haxorus also goes down, and Dragonite, while being a bit of a trouble due to Kingdra KOing itself, switch into my Ferrothorn and build up rollout damage to take it out. It also reveals to me that he's his father, or my father, the character's father, and he's divorced my mom, which is pretty sad, not gonna lie. Our last battle is against our mom. She has reinstated herself as the champion in order to face us. I set up 2 Dragon Dances and go for a Waterfall, taking down her lead Pokemon Golurk. Out comes the Lucario. I decide to go for Outrage before it takes my Kingdra down with Dragon Pulse. Out comes my Magmortar and I finish off the Mega Lucario with Fire Punch. I do as much damage as I can before letting my Magmortar faint. Switch into my Ferrothorn and Power with the Suicune. Next Pokemon is an Entei. Entei takes down my Ferrothorn as I switch into my Golurk for Earthquake, super effective Earthquake damage. I decide to switch it in after careful evaluation. Take it down with Earthquake off the Entei, misses. I also go for the Earthquake on the Raikou, taking it down. Last Pokemon is an Osito. I'm not sure what it is, but it transformed into my Golurk, so a Zombie Strike takes it down. And with that, we have defeated our mom and become the champion of the Western region. Super cool team, by the way. Very odd team to build, but still worked for me. We can't enjoy our successes for too long as there are tremors of earthquakes back at our hometown. We decide to meet up with our mom and Oak and find out that Zeus, or Gold as he was known before, has finally caught Devavas. He challenges us to a battle. He takes down my Rizzler as I switch into my Golurk for Earthquake, taking down the Metagrow. Out comes Shaman. Does take on my Golurk, but I switch into my Magmortar and deal super effective Fire Blast damage to take down the Shaman. Last Pokemon is the Devavas. Now, I was pretty concerned that this thing resisted all attacks, but turns out every attack is neutral towards it, so I just have to hit it as hard as I can to take it out. I decide to let go of my Magmortar because it has really low HP, and then switch into my Ferrothorn to go for Power Whip. 2 Power Whips takes down the Devavas, and with that, we have defeated Zeus and beat the game. Well, sort of. There's a lot to do, but I couldn't fit it into this video. Basically, what you have to do is rematch the Elite Four in this thing called the Sigil Halls and make our way to the 5th Sigil Halls. We have to battle Trainer Red there and then ultimately defeat Zeus or Gold for one final time. If you guys want to experience what happens next, make sure to download Pokemon Zeta or Pokemon Omicrons for yourself and play it for yourself. It is a really fun game, really enjoyable experience that I had through playing it. If you guys want to check out the playthrough, make sure to check out my second channel. If you guys enjoyed these fan game videos, make sure to leave a like so I know that I need to continue doing them. Make sure to subscribe to the channel, and yeah, bye.